because when I came home after 8 years, I paroled out to my brother's walk-in closet.
I still got 3 years of parole left.
Welcome to another episode of From Felon to Fabulous. I got Abigail here with me. I'm going to let her share a little bit about her story. No, she's not a felon, but she does believe in second chances, and she does believe that people can change. So welcome, Abigail. Tell them who you are, what you do.
My name is Abigail Unfred. Sorry, I almost forgot my name for a second. The first couple minutes on camera is so nerve-wracking. And I wear a bunch of hats. So I wear a bunch of hats. My 9 to 5, my stability is equipment. I've been in the auction game for about a decade now. Actually, this year will be 10 years since I started doing auctions, and it is addicting and I love it, and it's allowed me to help small businesses that, you know, they want to get into this game, and that's the beauty of it. I get to use all of my past experiences and failures and all this stuff to give somebody a better step forward. I do a podcast, I model sometimes, I'm a photographer on the weekends, and I just like helping people.
And you're a mom.
And I'm a mom, yeah. That's 24/7, so sometimes I forget that's a job too. It's a huge job. And I'm not just a mom, I'm a special needs mom. I still have not found like a Down syndrome is our, it's just a piece of us now. It's like been sewn into us, how we move, what we do. Like as Isabel's
mom.
Well. Thank you. Sometimes you just need to hear that you're not failing at that, because there's no.
It's hard to be a mom, period.
Yeah.
When you add everything else to it, it's not. And you were young to have a Down syndrome baby.
Yeah, I was 24. And I didn't go to college. I didn't have any kind of education, like formal education. I just had like this hunger that I was like, I did not want to be that person that depended on any kind of extra, which, when I say like depend on extraness, that was just not what I wanted. I wanted to be able to give my girls more options, more opportunities than I had. And like, for me, I grew up in a big family, and we were basically told that we'll give you your basic necessities, but anything else you want, you have to go and get. And, for me, I have brothers that, like what Felon and Fabulous means to me is my older brother, Mo.
Before you tell that story, the first time I met you, we meet at a coffee shop. She comes in, her hair is in cornrows.
Yeah.
I always remember that. And she told me this story about her being one of how many people?
So there's 16 of us total.
Yes.
Yep, there's 16 of us total, and everybody. I've actually gotten a little away from telling people that, only because it's just so complex. Like my parents in Caw Valley, which is Lawrence, Douglas County, they took in kids, and they had not a rule, but I think on the criteria it was they would only take young men. And majority of them were either juvenile offenders or they were special needs, because my mother had already birthed my brother that's special needs. And so our house was pretty much equipped for it. And then the boy thing, I was the only girl. I was the youngest. In fact, I was a one-night stand between my parents. And so they had all these boys. And then here comes me And I'm just a little firecracker. But having like and I think that's why my brain moves the way it does, is because I had all these different influences. My brothers, they range from different ethnicities, different like
You said you
styles.
have every color on the scale.
Pretty much. Yep. We got Filipino, we got Dominican, we got black, we got white. My brother always says I got the skin to win. And I'm like, I'll take it. I take it with a pride because I am very privileged and very blessed. But I only had that life, until 10 years old. So in the first 10 years, I'm just like engulfed with all these different personalities. And then we moved to Kansas City, and now I have to be reborn into a new, everything, and now all of a sudden my brothers are gone because the youngest boy is like 8 years older than me. And so all my brothers, they're either in high school, but they got to pick where they wanted to go. I had to stay with my mom. And so when we moved here to Kansas City, I'm in survival mode by myself, and I would tell that story. I think for me, I wore my 16 brothers as like a Superman cape when I was alone in Kansas City, because
that's powerful.
Who's going to mess with somebody that has these brothers,
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm 31, and the beauty of Facebook is that, I get to stay in contact with them, but it's just not the same, It's not the same. I get to watch them grow and be their individualities and stuff. But that is a big piece of me that I'm still processing on. What does it mean to have that many influences as a child, good and bad,
So let's talk about Mo.
Mo is near and dear. He is my older brother that we are not blood related. We don't have the same parents. We don't, and he's just been my protector for so long. I was 14 years old. I used to sit on my back porch and do things and paint. And I would just sit there and paint. And when Mo came into my life, I just felt so lost and broken. And he was like the first protector that didn't want anything harmful for me, right? He didn't ask for anything. He would just give me money. I remember one year he got me like this extravagant Valentine's. I never had Valentine's or anything like that. And he just always went above and beyond to make me feel like I should still be alive today, and he kept in darkest moments. But for Mo, he consistently had issues with the justice system, and I say that with like, so I almost stuttered at justice because I had to, again, I got the skin to win, and I'm taking him to these courts and things like that. And I just remember like sitting, and this was probably like 7 or 8 years ago. He had gotten into an argument with a young woman, and had taken off down the street walking, got away from the situation like we were taught. And he gets in trouble. The police find him because she's called and said that he just took off running and walking or whatever. And so he goes to his first court hearing, and there was a young man, we're sitting there waiting on our turn, and there was a young white man that was sitting up there. And the judge, and I'm listening to the case, I'm like a chismosa that's like, what's happening, And I'm listening to the case, and he had gotten a felony while he was he had gotten an additional charge while he was on probation for a felony, and they let him walk that day. They let him walk, this young man. And so then our case comes up, and I'm thinking, you know what? Like,
Feeling pretty good about it.
I'm feeling really good because my brother's charges were not that bad, and he's been doing good, and he has a job, and things are going great. And I'm over here telling him, I'm like, he's gonna be fine. Like, it's gonna be fine. He gets up there. The judge gives him a shock. 30 days. They said you have until 5 o'clock to go and tell your kids, figure out what you're going to do with your 2 youngest kids, and then you're going in for 30 days. And to me, that was like the first time where my eyes were just wide open. Like, oh my gosh.
There's no fairness. There's no rhyme or reason.
There's no rhyme or reason. And then just watching.
And sometimes it doesn't matter who you are, but it does matter who you know. That's
true. That is very true. And for him, he did a year long. So the 30 days. And then after he got out after that 30 days, is it called furlough?
No, it would be probably The furlough is where you get
went
laid
down
off, or you can take time off of prison
Okay.
and then come back. They don't really do that much anymore.
Yeah, it started with an F. Sorry for my ignorance on it. But so he got out of the 30-day and he's like, I need to go get my mind right. So he went down and visited one of our other brothers in Arkansas, took a really good paying job, started sending money back to get himself back on his feet. And
they let him go to Arkansas?
No.
Oh,
no.
They say they don't if you're on probation.
Yes, they did not. And so then he gets himself back on his feet. At this point, he's been clean. He's not drinking, you know, things like this. He's really trying, right? And he's really just trying because, I mean, without an ID, you can't get a job. Without a job, you can't get a house. Without a house, you can't get a car. Without a, and it's
it keeps piling up.
It keeps piling up. And so I did everything I could to try and, like, you know, finesse this to the point that we even started a company at one point. And I was like, you know what, if we can't find you a job, we're going to build one, right? And so he comes back, and then just for him, and he explains to the judge when he came back, he was like, you know, I understand that I didn't do this probation correctly, but these are all the things I've accomplished in this time being out here. Like, I'm not, you know, I'm not taking my time for granted or anything like that. Like, I'm actively, intentionally trying to make my life better. The judge says, I don't care. You didn't show up for probation. So another year. He had to do a year and then be on probation again. And it was just like, why?
They set you up to fail sometimes.
They do. And they give you no grace.
And it hurts the family. It hurts the kids. And the system will tell you, no, they did that because they committed a crime.
Mm-hmm.
But if the system was fair, and if their crime was treated like everybody other's crime in that category, then that might be okay. But the fact that it's not,
it's very and I say this with, like, just my personal, it's very racially you know, it definitely is. Everything else that's going on in the world today, I'm trying to, but it's my own personal experience. I've watched him, you know, be ripped out of a car before. For what? A taillight? You know, because he did build up this aggression. He's labeled. And he did build up this aggression towards the system, obviously, right? Because they're not here to help him. And so being pulled over for a taillight one night, he rolled his window down and the officer said, you know, driver's license or da-da-da. And he's hard-headed like me, you know, and he hands his ID up through the window. And he's like, oh, the officer says you need to do this or this. And it's just, the officer is already on guard. And I also have friends that are police officers. So this is by no means like, hey,
right.
But there are bad apples on every tree.
That's right.
Every single
Everywhere,
tree.
every community, every workplace.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so I wholeheartedly do not believe that, you know, to let such a generalized label. It brings back to, you asked me, you know, what's my faith? I'm God driven. And so I am a firm believer that God loves every single one of us, despite our ethnicities, despite how tall we are, despite how much education we have. I do believe that God put all of us here for a specific purpose, and it is our mission to find that purpose. And mine is to, you know, to help. And I've been doing that throughout my, you know, my kids, my family, my professional experience, everything I'm trying. You know, I just feel like if you're not trying, you're wasting this time that you have been given. And so with Mo, it was huge for me to have to watch my brother just try his hardest to get back on his feet, to be a member of society, and just constantly being railroaded and kicked down. And so now, by the grace of God, he has a great job right now, and he is doing everything he possibly can. Unfortunately, he's still having to take classes, still having to do these things. Yep. And I don't think a lot of people really take into consideration how those pieces, so it's not just getting out of jail, the mandatory things that they make you do if you don't have a car, if you have a job, right? Or how are you supposed to tell your brand new job that you have to take off on a random Thursday because
you're getting P-test or checking in? And then it goes even further. Your probation officer, if he's not, or she, it's not cool, and I've had both, they want to call your work. They want to nuisance the boss to death about you. Yeah. And they know that going in because you've already been aware of it. And if they hire a lot of felons, and they're already part of that, but to the person who's trying to hire that one felon that they've never hired before and trying to really make a difference and give them a second chance, the missed work because you have to check in, the missed work because of the P test, which you have to pay for, by the way.
Yeah, $16.
Yes.
Yep.
And then the boss gets called.
Mm-hmm.
So who has time for that in the course of a work day? It gets annoying.
It does. Annoying. It's expensive. It's annoying. It's hard to get back up, and
I had a probation officer. So my first one, and I was low custody, very low custody. Tell me, my mom wanted to take me down to see her family. Her sister was getting ready to pass, and they said, okay, no problem. However, we need you to turn in all of your receipts when you get back so that we know that you paid for it. Now, what does that have to do with anything?
Mm-hmm.
They had to prove, my mother had to prove that she paid for everything, that no money came out of my pocket because there was restitution owed, but there was still no freedom. And I wasn't supposed to leave the state of Kansas when then I think a 50-mile into Kansas City. And I was supposed to live like that for 5 years. You can go, and now granted, my restitution was being paid monthly. So if the restitution's being paid, and I understand still being on probation and having to check in with them, but what's the point of if I'm paying my bill to you and I want to go do something with my family, why should I have to have somebody else pay for it?
Yeah.
It's just so wrong.
It is. And it's like, I can't think of a situation where that would be their business. You know what I mean?
I was allowed to eat and have so much in clothing per month. Now, I had just come out of prison for 4 years.
So you have nothing.
And not even that, we had a house fire. So I literally only had what was on my back. And we had to turn in receipts for everything.
And I deal with a small amount of that for my daughter, Isabel. Up until recently, I just got this new position that, my side of it is that, if you make over $42,000 a year, you lose benefits. There's no backup, and I don't have, my kid's dad has terminal cancer right now. And so there's no, you don't go,
he can't help you.
He can't help, and that's no ill to him. No. It's just that's something that he's got a lot going right now. So I'm really trying. That's why I do wear all these hats. The extra sessions I do in the studio on Sundays, that's our groceries. That's our gas for the week. That's Giselle's book fair. And so, but
you're doing it.
Thank you.
And before we get back to Mo, let's talk a little bit about the fact that maybe you could have been incarcerated.
Easily. And again, I think a little bit of it was I had the skin to win, but I also, from a young age, I knew how to talk. I could talk myself out of most any situation. I have been in trouble a few times with the law, but I was respectful. I was, and I say that.
But how easy is it to get in trouble?
It is, especially if you're surrounded by the wrong people or you're related to the wrong people.
So if that's all you know when you go in, and when you come out, you can tend to go right back to it, which is why the recidivism is where it's at. But they also, for me, I wasn't allowed to hang around any felons, but I had some cousins that were felons. Now, granted, they had been out for a while. I had to get permission to even talk with them. So I went back for a funeral. And what are you supposed to do? Not go in the same room with your cousin at a family member's funeral? I had to get permission to do that. And I understand that because you don't want to get mixed back up in the wrong crowd. But they take it, again, these are where they're taking things to an extreme. But you're allowed to go to work with an employer that only hires felons. So this is my point. I can't go see my family who's a felon who I did not get in trouble with, but I can go work at the same place I just did prison with. Mixed up for a reason.
And they have no rhyme or reason to it. And for me, it was like, I was very lucky. And then, Mo, there was the one time that I was looking at getting into some serious trouble. Well, not the very important one. We'll just keep it that.
The one time, not the one time. A time.
A time. Let's say a time, because I don't want to spread falseness, but a time that it was looking serious. My brother Mo stepped in, and he got me out of it. And that's why I feel like
He got you out of it because he knew it.
Yeah.
He knew how to.
He knew how to already deal with the system.
Right.
And he.
So what is Mo doing now? And how much time did he actually get?
So this last time it was only a year, and then he does this thing which has always been beautiful to me, that he will go and disappear into the woods essentially and come back.
Sounds like my husband.
Yeah, like he likes to, he'll either go to Arkansas or he's like, I gotta go reconnect, and he roots down, and then I won't see him for a little bit, and then he'll come back, and I'm like, you look good, man, you look great. I'm so happy to see this for you. But so the last time it was only a year, but it's probably been 4 years since that, and the job thing and it's like he can't get back up. He just couldn't get back up.
Low wages.
Oh yeah.
Which ensures you're not going to get back up.
Right.
Because it's paycheck to paycheck, and the money's usually spent before you even get the check.
And like you said, the restitution, they garnish you for everything, back taxes, because
or child support.
Yeah, or child support. I think,
I have a friend that owed child support, and the ex just kept wanting to put him in jail. Well, how's he going to earn to do it? And because of this cycle, and I witnessed it with my uncle. I had an uncle, this is way back, kids are all grown. I mean, like 40 years ago, right? They didn't have the internet. So he had to get a job. He had to pay his child support. And the one time he's late, because he was either in between jobs or moved or had to do something, he went to jail.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking for a day or two. I'm talking 30, 40 days at a time. But that money still is being accrued. You still owe the child support. And he's always in the arrears. And every time he got ahead and he'd missed that one payment, back he went.
Yeah.
And every state is different on their laws. So it's almost like once you're in the system, you're going to stay in it.
Yeah. And that's something, like, for my situation that I had to go through, because a lot of the resentment of my kids' dad was that for the last 10 years, I've been the breadwinner. And, when you're matched between getting a check every month and having him living and breathing to be a part of your kids' life, I went this way.
As you should.
And I'm like, I had to settle.
My uncle didn't get to see his kids.
Ever?
Not until they were old. And they really didn't have a relationship because the mother never had anything really good to say about him. And that's unfortunate as well. And I'm not saying my uncle was the perfect man.
Right. And I mean, I'm not perfect. And I think that's what,
but you still want their father to be in their life.
I do. It's been an emotional roller coaster for me. I was with him for 10 years, 19 to 29. And when you first walk out of a relationship after that long, you're angry and resentful, and you did all these things wrong to me and all of this stuff. And then now fast forward 2 years later, and I am at peace, and I have saw the blessings in it. And so now constantly on Snapchat and everything, I'm always having a video of him and the girls, popping up. And I'm like, how beautiful is it that my kids know their dad? That's it,
And they won't hold that against you later because you allowed them to be part of his life.
Yeah.
Or so many moms want to hold
I mean, and I feel like there's a difference between a toxic man in a relationship and a toxic father.
There's difference.
My ex was not ever a toxic father. I mean, there were moments, but again, I can't say there hasn't been moments when I didn't accidentally bleed toxicity to my kids. But like you were saying, the consciousness of it is like, know better, do better.
Yeah.
And now I know that the best thing for my children, based on seeing others and living it, is that, you got to worry about yourself. And I worry about my girls too, but it's way better for them. And with the situation with like child support and stuff like that, I can't imagine like him, just surviving cancer and then, being put in jail for 30 days. And it's like, how are you going?
But there's some people out there, men and women, not just the moms. Men, I've seen it do too, where they've had the custody and they don't care if their children's other parent is sitting in jail. They don't care. where you've been alcohol-free for 18 months?
Yeah, so bottle, and that's the part of my story that I always like to tell the most is like, I have been on and off this bandwagon, or not bandwagon, sorry. Is that Yeah, I've been on and off the wagon. That's what I meant. I've been on and off the wagon for the last couple of years when it really started resonating with me how toxic alcohol was to me. Depression, bloating, acne, everything. It was what I did to numb, and I justified it with a hard day's work. I would go work for 14 hours and then come home.
Deserved and you earned that drink.
Earned that drink, right? And then
it works the same way with drugs.
Yeah, and then the second drink, and then the third drink, and like you said, not Pepsi, but I had a brief time with that. Again, I have family members that it was easy access. I could get it any time, and I justified. I'm building a company. I have to be awake tomorrow. I have to be up by 6 a.m. I'd wake up at 6 a.m.
We believe the lies we tell ourselves.
Yeah, I would put Pepsi up my nose, and I would go for another 14 hours, and so for me, it was like...
Which is a chargeable offense.
Yeah, it is. And that's, again, I know that I got very lucky. I've been very lucky in things where I should have had a completely different life. And I think that's what's so powerful about my podcast, Revenant Voices, is like I'm able to give these people that wouldn't have that voice anywhere else to come on. And
it's beautiful. I just did an event in DC called Find Your Voice. Mm-hmm. And everybody thinks it's about speaking, but it's not. It's about finding and telling your courage to tell your story. And then not only just the story, how can your story help other people?
Yeah.
And that's where it's at. So there might be another mom that's struggling with a child that has Down syndrome. She doesn't know what she's going to do. There might be another mom out there who has a child with Down syndrome and turns to the pills or the alcohol or to whatever. So to hear that it can happen, that you don't have to turn to it, is powerful to hear it from somebody else.
And that was the light bulb for me. Was I was self-pitying, having a special needs child, and having a man at the time that wasn't helping me provide, and poor me. And it was I actually walked into my first AA meeting with my ex-boyfriend to help him get sober. And then I heard these other stories, and they all resonated with me so much that I was like, damn it, you're an alcoholic too.
But it made you realize it, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yes. Because,
some people don't want to admit it.
Yeah.
They don't think they have a problem. I can put it down anytime, but can you?
That's what I used to tell myself was like, I'm not an alcoholic, but we drink every night, every weekend. We spend $40, $50 on every Chiefs game, and what are we doing, and what are we doing and for me, I have Crohn's. Mm-hmm. So I went to the doctors, and
it aggravates it.
Oh my gosh. By the time I was 28 years old,
You're awfully young for that too.
What?
For Crohn's.
Oh, I've had it since I was 14.
Wow.
And I've had it my whole life. I would say I don't know how I got it, but it's hereditary. My older cousin, I have an older cousin and a little cousin that also have it. And yeah, colonoscopy at 14, not fun. But my mom actually passed away from colon cancer when I was 19. And it's crazy, 10 years later, how it was so vivid at that age. And now I have to rethink, how old was I? Because you're just in auto tune. But with Crohn's, I finally went to the doctor. My ex-boyfriend was like, you take care of everybody else, but you don't take care of yourself. Go to the doctor. I said, okay. I went to the doctor, and I had a scan done, and I had lesions all along my intestines. I had ulcers. And he basically said that I could either quit drinking and change my diet, or I was going to have a colonoscopy bag within the next year. And he was like, those are your two choices. Do you want people to watch you use the bathroom, or do you want to get your stuff together? And I sat with that, and... it
was eye-opening.
Well, I kept trying to drink after that, and every drink was like a guilty... I was like, what? No, like
denial.
So I got off of because it was easier with my ex trying to get sober. So I had like a support system at home. Nobody, we were all dry. Cool. That lasted until that relationship ended. And then I had to sit with myself, and really, when you're like doing stuff for other people, it makes it like you're telling yourself you're doing it for them. But man, that accountability slaps you in the face when you have to now do it for yourself. So I'm standing here. This was December 6th, 2023, and I had just gotten into a violent altercation with my ex, and this is, oh, we're done now. And the first thing I wanted to do that night was go drink. That's the first thing I wanted to do. And my brother came over, Mo. He sat with me for the first couple of days while I was grieving this and trying to process this whole experience. And I made it through that weekend. And then as soon as my brother wasn't there, I went and got a drink. And then I went off for, that was in December, and that was a couple days. And then after that, I went dry again because I guilt tripped myself. I cleaned my house. I started cleaning my soul. I was like, okay, Abigail, you really have to give it up now. And I did good for a couple of months. And then I did a fashion show and went to the after party with everybody. And everyone is like, oh, and I'm telling myself, like, I can have one margarita. I got so, luckily it was really close to my house, but I drank like 3 margaritas and I'm spinning. And I just remember like, puking my guts up in my shower while it's raining down, and I'm just bawling my eyes out because I'm like, what the F is going on with my life right now? I can't do this. I'm going to cry. I'm a crier. I can't do this. You know, I was like, what am I doing? I have won awards for companies. I've done all of these things. You know, I've beat this and I'm killing myself. I'm literally poisoning my own body and calling it fun. So my sobriety started that day, and I've met a lot of really cool people on my sobriety journey, and I've actually brought a couple people more with me on accident, just telling my story.
That's okay. That's why you're sharing. Your voice matters.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm happy when somebody says, you know, I got sober because I heard what you said, and it resonated with me too, because a lot of people don't realize the spirits. It doesn't have to
just be alcohol.
It doesn't.
It's anything that
is intoxicating to you. You know, it's bad food. That's something we were talking with. I take care of my grandparents, and one of the big things that I've been hounding on my grandma is food. What you put into your body, it matters. It matters.
I'm struggling with that right now. Yeah, I've been struggling with it, and it's tough. And it's just like a drug. Mm-hmm.
It is. Well, and especially
the difference is you have to have it to survive.
You do. You do have to have it to survive. And when you've been on drugs and alcohol for a long time, you almost forget to eat too. And that's something I had to learn how to redo. Was like, oh, I guess normal people do have breakfast. And I don't like. It's not. I eat like little crackers or something. But at this point, I had to tell myself that eating is not an option, because you get into that mindset of, well, if I eat too much, then I'm over, you know, and you just overthink it. And so, yeah, it's been interesting and beautiful, because getting sober, it's given me a completely new goggles to look out of. And
has it changed your mindset?
Everything. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. You see things differently?
Everything is differently. How I mother, how I parent. And a lot of times people ask me, you know, because they think it's weird. You know, I'm only 31 and I've already given up alcohol. A lot of times, you know.
I gave it up at 26.
Oh, see? Yeah.
Touched a sense.
But, and I get a lot of people are like, really? Or why? I mean, not as many. Most of the time it's younger people that are asking me why while they're holding a drink in their hand. And I'm like, because I just wanted to be present for every day. I just wanted to be present every day.
And you know what your kids didn't, their memories be of you being drunk?
Definitely not that. And definitely just even when I was sober, but in my drinking phase, like let's say I drank all weekend and now it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm irritable. I'm tired. I'm bloated. I'm all of these things. Are they getting
the best of you?
No. And that wasn't worth it to me anymore. And in fact, the relationship I even have with my oldest daughter being sober this long, and her just seeing my bubbly, and I'm just a lot more active. Like we went to, I don't know if you've ever, if you haven't, take your grandkids here. It's in St. Louis. We have a tradition every year where we don't do Christmas. We do presents, not presents. Right. And so we went to St. Louis, and there's this place called the City Museum. And you have to like go inside all these little tunnels, and they're like, it's cool. $20 a person, totally worth the trip.
That sounds wonderful.
But I was so thankful to be able to keep up with my littlest, because she's like going through all of this stuff, and I'm just thinking like, I'll have to show you the videos because it's just really cool. But it is, I mean, you got to have leg muscles, arm muscles, and you have to be able to keep up with these little midgets. And I remember coming out of there, and I'm like, Yeah, my mom was a heavier set woman, and I think that's always like resonated with me. Had a lot of empathy towards that, but that's what's important for me to share with my grandma is, you know, you come from this line of where you guys, you know, my grandmother, my mother, they cooked butter and everything, a whole stick, and I love butter. I love it.
Everything's fine within
a little bit, moderation. And it doesn't have to be this little bit on the plate, but like a little bit of a bunch of stuff. And then I just separate that amongst different days. And that's our biggest argument most of the time is like, you know, she's like, I'm going to eat a whole bag of jelly beans. And I'm like, no, don't do that.
I still want to eat the whole bag of jelly beans.
Yeah, but not over a pork chop or something, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's been it's been a journey. It's been a journey.
But you're working on it. So since becoming the better you is part of From Felon to Fabulous, I love hearing how you're becoming the best version of yourself. But let's talk about second chances.
Second chances.
What do you think? What do you think about people who's been to prison?
Oh, I think that like I said, with my personal experience, there's not enough of them. There's not enough second chances. Mm-hmm. The way it's set up for them to fail. It's set up, and when I had my company, Treasure Nest, one of my guys he went to prison for 5 years for setting an apartment building on fire. And that looks really bad on a piece of paper.
It does.
And when you were talking about dealing with probation officers, I'd have to send letters. And since we were Kansas and Missouri back and forth in the states, if we did an estate in Kansas, I would have to let the probation officer know that he is allowed to be in Kansas.
State. That's right.
Yep. Even if it's just crossing. I mean, we live so close that you wouldn't think it. And I just didn't want him to get in any trouble. After 5 years, he did get off. Man, I just realized I've known Brian for almost 10 years. Okay. Sorry. And so, yeah, I mean, I think there should be, and that's one thing I try to do with my my platform, my community, is give those second chances or put people together that feel the same way I do. Mm-hmm. You know, if you know that someone is struggling as a felon, you know, a gentleman I talked to just a few days ago, he spent half of his life in prison and now he's out 3 months. And, you know, by the grace of God, he has a lot of his overhead is met and he did get certificates.
That's good because that doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen, you know, and like you were saying, for, you know, I think why me and Mo are so close is I was one of the only family members that he could actually live with.
Your family shuts you off.
Well, not just that, but like you have to have.
If they have a criminal background, you can't either. But sometimes the family doesn't want anything to do with you. They're still going to work with you and talk with you and see you on the holidays, but they don't want you living with them. Right.
They don't want you living with them. They don't want to be associated with you. And for me, I was one of the people on Mo's that I didn't have a criminal record, and I am accountable with this probation officer, you know, and so I can make sure that he gets where he's supposed to go and stuff. And so I just feel like building that community of people that are like myself, that just because you haven't done time doesn't mean that you shouldn't show empathy.
Absolutely.
You know, empathy is one of my it's something I stand on. It means the ability to understand. And so that not the ability to relate, not the ability
to understand,
just to understand.
And I like the way how you put that.
And it can be hard, you know, it could be hard.
I had to remind my own father, how many times did you get in the car and drive drunk? Oh, well, things were just different back then. Mm-hmm. It's still the same process. It's still the alcohol. You still get behind the wheel. You still drive. Mm-hmm. Maybe it wasn't illegal back then, but now it is. Mm-hmm. So you could have been sitting right there with me. Yeah. Yeah, you easily. And that's something too. It's just like, I think as a felon, or I only try to speak for as a felon, watching my brothers and cousins, friends, people I grew up with going through this process, it's like not enough it's so easy for people to put their chin up and be like, I would never do that. I would never do that. You know what? I never say never anymore. I know. When you get back to the corner, you don't know what you're going to do. Oh my gosh. When you get desperate, you don't know what you're going to do. When you are with somebody else and you can't control what they're doing, you could get in trouble just for being there. Yeah. You know, I see, in the movie, some guy says, oh, we're just going to stop in here real quick. I'm going to go in here and get a soda. Mm-hmm. And then they rob the place. Yeah. This person in the car knew nothing about that, but they could still get charged. Oh yeah, easily. Mm-hmm. Easily. And just that is one that happens quite often in Wyandotte. You know, the drug pair. You know, somebody
I think young women, something that I can relate to is, being a former crash dummy, is I dated men that I was, again, I got the skin to win. So, and that was before I had tattoos. And I was used as somebody that, okay, if we put it on her when the cops pull us over,
They're not going to believe it.
They're not going to believe it. And then in my generation, there was one female cop.
Yep.
And so if whoever pulled you over didn't want to wait on her to come search you, they would check all the men. And if there was no warrants or anything, they would let you go. And one time I remember it was like 2:00 in the morning. I took my mom's Jeep and I drove all the way out to like over by like the Legends, kind of like further out in Wyandotte, where, like I said, we were coming from like 18th to go and do something. And then on the way there, I had my buddy Rob, my buddy Matt, the guy I was dating at the time. Like, so the four guys.
The car was full.
Car was full. I'm a 15-year-old little white girl. And I'm sitting there. The cop pulls us over. He checks everybody. He's like, what are you doing with these guys? Right? They're all older. They're like 17, 18. I'm 15 years old. And I was like, oh, I'm just helping him take him, and like lied to the police officer. And then kept going down. And he's like, okay, I want you to take. He gave me a pass. He was like, you can go, but you need to go home. I don't want to see this. I was a bright red Jeep. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So on Parallel, see you again.
There's no way. Like Parallel, Leavenworth Road, all of those are straight shots. So we go, we party, a couple hours go by. It's like 2 a.m., right? I've dropped everybody off. Now I'm almost to 635 on Parallel. And the same cop, man, I just saw him and he just goes, whoop, whoop. Okay, so I was young and dumb, and so the cop pulls me over. He's like, I thought I told you I don't want to see you anymore. Get out of the car, blah, blah, blah. He's like treating me really crazy, right? But still not as crazy as if I had darker skin. And that's something that I understand that. Like, I was very thankful. And so even then, this man, Officer McGee was his name. I'll never forget it. He sat me in the back of the squad car, and he said, if you can call somebody to come get your mama's car, I'll let you go. Call an adult. I called my boyfriend that didn't even have a driver's license and was like, Johnny, I'm pulled over. He's like, I can't come get you. I can't do that. And so, which I'll still never forget, because it's like, you're young and you're so you don't understand.
You don't think things through.
That was the first time that I went and was detained. Again, no charges were brought up, other than, driving defense. I had to take a diversion class and, some other silly things that are not as severe. Again, I think if I had darker skin, then that would have been a completely different story we'd be telling right now.
You might have been with Chuck Doyle.
Yeah, I easily could have been with Coffee Cup Chuck, easily. And so that's one of the times where it's like I reminisce and I share that story, because it's that if you're young, one little thing like that could change everything. I could have easily still had drugs in the car. I could have easily wrecked that car into somebody else. I could have hurt somebody severely, and would have changed the ripple of my entire life. And so when I'm able to talk to young,
one choice,
yes, one night of out hanging out and stuff like that, and it's like I've seen similar small decisions ruin people's lives, just ruin their lives. And I don't know who they are today, but I grew up with someone who that happened to. They were the driver in an armed robbery, and they have been in jail for 12 years for that. And it's a sad thing, because even commentaries like $70 a week, and their families do give up on them. They don't, after a year or so, they stop getting letters.
That is in high school with the girlfriend. He's 17. She's 16. He turns 18. They're having sex, and the parents file charges.
Yeah, when that kid's life is over.
She's just as much to blame.
Right. And she got to go on with her life, and that's another thing, is not just our skin color, but I am learning more with my, that men have been set up to fail for generations. And we always, I say we, but as a society, we love to say that men have been, what am I trying to say? As a society, what like the men aren't providers anymore. We like to dog on them, right? We like to dog on them, and we like to say like what they're not doing for us and how they're not contributing anymore. But in reality, look how many generations of men that weren't like just were set aside, and their emotions were set aside, their feelings.
They weren't allowed to.
And so they, in their own way, was just as isolated as women were.
Yeah.
And that really mentally and physically and spiritually disconnected a lot of males to where, Coffee Cup Chuck is one of my favorite men because he's one of the first men I've ever seen that be so vulnerable.
Yep. And tells the truth.
And tells the
makes
truth.
no excuses for it.
Yeah.
Doesn't mince it. He tells the truth. He's vulnerable. And he really wants to help other people grow.
And he does. And it's just, he's like open and honest about his F-ups and what he's, what he's been through and what he goes through today. He's like, I'm nowhere near perfect. I'm not here trying to say, like, if you do this and this and this, you're going to be perfect. No, you'll get better as you go. And just being able to be a man like that, he came over one time and was at our house doing my ex's hair and talking with him. He was explaining about how when he was in prison, he was bunked with a really high-end white collar crime, and the white collar crime insisted on he read these certain books.
Yep.
And again, it's like, boom, the ripple of that. All he had to do was be placed with another, someone
might not like him.
Someone that
had experience in a different culture, a different, whatever you want to call it, different mindset, different likes. Yes.
Yeah. And that would have changed his story completely. So it's just so beautiful how all of our stories, we could be watching the same movie in the same theater at the same time, and we'd have two completely different experiences on that. And to be able to say like that we both like the movie. And it's okay if you didn't. It's okay if you don't like the movie. There are certain things with this climate right now, I'm never going to co-sign my name on anything that would divide people. That's just not me. I'm never going to say that I believe or support anything that divides our people, or singles out a type of person.
And I love that about you because you really just love the person.
I do. I just love the people.
We should all be. Love the person.
I just love people, and I have friends that are transgender. I have friends that are Muslim. I have friends, and that I think is what I just want my kids, and monkey see, monkey do.
Yep, and they do. They watch.
Yeah, they watch. Giselle, we were at that fashion show last week, and a couple of the girls are exotic dancers. And a couple of the girls are stay-at-home moms, and so it's like so beautiful.
And everybody wants to bash the exotic dancer, but she's probably making more money than they are and not living that life. She's really just dancing.
She's just dancing. And that's the thing too. It's like there's so many, if you show empathy and hear their story and really process,
Makes a difference.
it does. I've been so lucky to go to other countries and experience that. Like nudity, for one, is such an Americanized. And
we teach us to be shameful of our bodies.
Yep, shameful of our bodies.
What we look like, how we act. Yes.
And over there, like specifically in European cultures, burlesque dancing is actually a lot more common. And it's just, it's the same thing. Americans just took it and did something different with it.
Made everything taboo.
Yeah, but like for my daughter, I've taken her to Hamburger Mary's. I want her to see the beauty in other people. And like, there's so many different, I would consider like the drag shows a culture. And Jesus Christ, definitely in my eyes, I don't see my God ever, when he said like over 100 times, love my children. He didn't say love my children only if they do this or if they do this.
Well, he can't love me then because I have a lot of my own issues.
Oh, wow. He does though. He does love you.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yep. Me too.
With that mindset, that's what they're thinking. And here's the other thing with people who dress in drag, not all of them are with same sex.
Yeah.
It's just something they do.
This is 100%.
And perception is our reality.
Yeah, and assumptions are, whether it be with felons or whether it be with the drag community, whatever community it is, I think that is what hurts people more than anything. I hear a lot that it's like, oh, we need to bring Jesus back into the schools. Jesus should just be everywhere anyway. He is everywhere anyway. But I think empathy being empathetic because, like I said, I have friends that are Muslim, and my mama explained this perfectly when I was a kid to me. She said that all of the different religions, imagine them as if they were professional football teams.
Mm-hmm.
They're all playing the same game, and I don't mean game disrespectfully, but they're all playing the same. We all believe there is a higher power that is healing, that is loving, that is caring. We just all call them something different because we're from different parts of the world.
That's right.
And that always clicked with me, and it made it so much easier where it's not about religion, it's about spirituality. And it's not a thing where it's like you believe in it or you don't. You're either tuned in or you're not. You know, either you're tuned into God's waves and his energy and his love, and it just pours out of you. It pours out of you every time we get a hug in, and every time I see Miss Izzy with AYPN, it just glows on them. You know, certain people, they're chosen to share that God's love, and I think that's what's going to do it, guys. You know, my $1 million idea is going to change the world, that we should all just love each other.
And we should.
Yeah.
We absolutely should. So we're probably about out of time. I want you to give our viewers some advice for keep going as a felon.
Okay. My advice would be that take account of what you love and you don't love about your current situation. Wherever you are today in this moment, just take account of that, a physical account, and then push through those things by, how do I say this? Surround yourself with positive influence that will make this happen, right? So if you physically, for me, if you take account of where you're at, I need a home, I need a job, I need this. Well, how are you going to get these things? You're going to surround yourself with people that will nurture and give you affirmations and things like that. And I think that, I mean, like you were saying, it's not always what you know, but who you know. Mm-hmm. And if that's spirituality, you know, get in a church. And that was the gentleman that I spoke with last week. It was like him finding a community of people that love Christ and love him through loving Christ. Mm-hmm. That is what's kept him clean and sober since getting out of prison,
especially when you have that faith. And I don't mean just faith in a God or whatever you have faith in. I'm talking about faith in yourself.
Yeah.
Because faith is something that's unseen, but you can still feel it.
Yeah, definitely.
And when you can feel it and you know that you're on the right track, it's going to keep you on the track.
Yeah, it'll keep you aligned and grounded. And so have faith in yourself and just be conscious of who you bring around you, because everyone's energy bounces on and off of you. And so if you're fresh out of prison or jail and you're trying to get back on your feet, you know, watch your surroundings. And sometimes being alone is the best.
And keep going.
And keep going.
Don't give up.
Don't ever give up.
You don't need to go back.
No.
So thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for more episodes of fantastic people that were felons that are now fabulous.
Or do you want to be the person that soothes, that loves? Because you can still stand tall and be as big as you want to be when you are this person.